All right, let's take a trip back to the 2024 season. The Chiefs were rolling, but there was one glaring issue. The pass rush needed help. The front office knew it, the coaches knew it, and if you were watching, you definitely knew it too. So, when the trade deadline came around, Kansas City made a move, bringing in defensive end and linebacker Joshua Uche. At the time, it felt like a smart pickup. Uche had flashed potential in New England, showing he could be a force in getting after the quarterback. With the Chiefs' defensive system already showing promise, adding another weapon seemed like the perfect way to strengthen the unit for the playoff push. Andy Reid certainly thought so. We've had the benefit of having played against him, so we know he's a very aggressive, good pass rusher and good all-around player, Reid said back in November. The expectation was clear. Uche would be worked into the defensive line rotation and contribute immediately. But here's the thing, that didn't happen. At all. Despite all the hype surrounding the move, Uche barely saw the field. The idea of him seamlessly fitting into the system never materialized, and before long, fans started wondering, what went wrong? Now, let's be real. Not every mid-season trade turns into a blockbuster move, but there was genuine hope that Uche could at least be a solid contributor. Instead, he became an afterthought. So here's the question for you. When the Chiefs traded for Uche, did you think he was going to be a difference maker? Be honest. Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's see where you stood back then. Let's be honest. When a team makes a mid-season trade, the expectation is that the player will step in and contribute. Maybe not as a game changer, but at least as a solid rotational piece. With Joshua Uche, that simply never happened. 6 games. That's how many times Uche suited up for Kansas City. And out of those 6 games, he played more than 11 defensive snaps just once. Let that sink in. That one exception? Week 18 against the Denver Broncos. He logged 50 snaps and racked up 8 tackles. But here's the kicker. He wasn't even playing his natural position. Due to injuries and depth issues, Uche was forced to take snaps as an off-ball linebacker instead of rushing the passer. That's not what the Chiefs brought him in for. So what went wrong? Well, part of the issue was that Kansas City's pass rush situation changed after the trade. Charles Omenihu returned to action, and rookie Felix Anudike-Uzomah started showing real progress. That left Uche on the outside looking in, buried on the depth chart with no real role in the defense. For fans, this was frustrating. When the Chiefs made the move for Uche, it wasn't seen as a desperate gamble. It was supposed to be a smart, calculated addition. Instead, he became an afterthought, a player who was barely used and never found his place in Steve Spagnuolo's defense. And that brings us to a question for you. Out of all the mid-season trades the Chiefs have made over the years, which one do you think was the biggest disappointment? Was it Uche, or do you have another name in mind? Vote in the poll and drop a comment below with your pick. Fast forward to the NFL's annual meeting in Palm Beach, Florida, and Andy Reid finally addressed what happened with Joshua Uche in Kansas City. If you were hoping for some kind of excuse or sugarcoating, that's not what Reid had to say. Instead, he was pretty honest about it. Probably wasn't a great fit for what we do, Reid admitted. And we got him late and we were trying to work him in. That's a tougher deal to do. Would have liked to see him throughout training camp so we have time to get him in there and go. By the time we got him, we were rolling. That right there sums up the problem. Uche was brought in at a point in the season when the defense had already settled into its rhythm. And let's not forget, defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo runs a complex system. It's not the kind of defense you can just jump into and immediately succeed. That's why training camp is so important for new additions. Reid also admitted something else. Uche might not have been the right fit for what the Chiefs needed, and that's a pretty big deal. It suggests that the front office may have miscalculated when making the move, which isn't something you hear every day from this organization. Brett Veach and his staff are usually great at finding the right players for the system, but this time they may have missed. Then there's the timing. By the time Uche arrived, The Chiefs' pass rush situation had already changed. Charles Omenihu was back. Felix Anudike-Uzoma was developing. The defense didn't need Uche as much as they initially thought. That left him as an awkward piece that never quite fit. So here's the big question for you. Do you think Uche deserved more of a shot, or was this just a bad fit from the start? Should the Chiefs have done something differently, or was this just one of those moves that was doomed from the beginning? Let me know in the comments. Bringing in a player mid-season always sounds great in theory. You see a weakness, make a trade, and instantly upgrade the roster, right? Well, not exactly. The reality is much more complicated, and the Chiefs' situation with Joshua Uche is a perfect example of why. NFL teams have a structured, highly detailed system for preparing their players. Training camp and the off-season program are crucial for learning the playbook, understanding assignments, and building chemistry with teammates. When a player joins a new team in the middle of the season, they don't have that luxury. Instead, they have to learn on the fly, while competing against guys who have been in the system for months. Reid pointed this out when discussing Uche's struggles, and he's not wrong. It's tough to integrate a player into a defense like Steve Spagnuolo's without proper preparation. But this isn't just a Chiefs problem. It's a league-wide issue. Look at DJ Humphries, for example. The Chiefs signed him late in the season after he recovered from a knee injury, and just like Uche, he struggled to make an impact. It's not that these guys aren't talented, it's that NFL practice schedules don't allow enough time for them to truly adjust. This raises an interesting debate. Should teams even bother making mid-season trades if they rarely work out? Or is it just a matter of finding the right player at the right time? So let's settle this. Do you think NFL teams should avoid mid-season trades unless absolutely necessary? Or do you believe there's a way to make them work? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If there's one thing we know about Brett Veach and the Chiefs front office, it's that they learn from their mistakes. And after the Joshua Uche trade, there's a major lesson to take into the 2025 offseason. Mid-season moves aren't always the quick fix they seem to be. This situation should serve as a reminder that the best way to improve a team isn't by scrambling for talent at the trade deadline. It's by building a strong roster in the offseason, making sure every piece fits, and giving players the time they need to develop in the system. That's exactly why Kansas City's free agency decisions and draft selections in 2025 will be under even more scrutiny. The pressure is on Veach and his staff to make the right moves this time around. They can't afford another situation where they bring in a player who never finds his role. That means targeting guys who truly fit what the Chiefs need, not just players who look good on paper. So, what do you think? Should the Chiefs be more cautious with mid-season trades moving forward, or was this just an isolated case? And looking ahead, what's the one position you think Kansas City must address this offseason? Let me know in the comments.